Hey guys, welcome to the live student project review for the event poster design challenge. So I'm going to have a couple minutes here, maybe about 3 or 4 minutes to wait to get some live people hopping on here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my page so I can see your comments on my other computer. So I'm just going to come on here so I can open it up so I can see your live comments and let me know if you can hear me okay. Here I am. So now I can see you if you're live. Go ahead and say hi. I'm going to turn the audio off. There we go. And just a few housekeeping things while we're kind of waiting for people to come. I'm just kind of playing around again in Adobe XD. I'm kind of obsessed with Adobe XD lately, kind of doing some wireframing work, as you can see, kind of exploring all these really cool auto animate features where you can do web design and web mockups and kind of make this really interesting, cool stuff. And speaking of which, I just launched a UI UX masterclass. I don't really call it that, but I call it the User Experience Design, Learn the UX UI Process in Adobe XD. I just launched that in Udemy and also on Skillshare. If I can go back to here, I can show you it on Skillshare. And just launched that if you have a Skillshare membership. If not, I also have it on Udemy. And if you ever want to get any of my classes on discount, make sure to check out my website, lindsaymarsh.myportfolio.com. You can find any of my classes and you can find a discount price for any of my classes on Udemy or Skillshare. So anyway, enough with that housekeeping. There's just one more housekeeping left. I am writing the script for my new lessons that are going to come out called Finding Your Graphic Design Niche. So it's going to go through all these different kinds of graphic design niches, and it's going to kind of talk about what it takes to become kind of a designer in one of these niches and what kind of software you need to master, kind of what to expect, so you can kind of find out what design niche you really want to start to go into. Do you want to do print design? You want to be a logo designer? Do you want to be a package designer? Do you want to be a UX UI designer? So all this class or in these lessons will kind of help you figure that out, and they'll be available on some of my Udemy classes as extra bonus lessons and also on a Skillshare class. So enough of that. Let's go ahead and hop right in. I have lots and lots and lots of projects to review. So if anybody's live, I'm going to go ahead. This is the first time doing it on my Facebook page. So I was doing it in a private group for a while, so I know I'm doing it in a different location, so you might not get the live notification right away. But I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of in alphabetical order. We have a bunch of wonderful projects to review, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. So we'll do alphabetical order and we'll go down. And for this, I'm going to focus a little less on spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, although I might mention that if it's pertinent to the design. But I'm going to really focus on kind of layout, blocking, kind of basic typography, type hierarchy, just basic design principles overall on these pieces. And I'm not going to get too detailed, just kind of focus on a few points for each one, as we have 21 different projects to go through. So I'm going to open all of hers at once. And I think they have a couple of different versions here. Yay, hi, Shawn. So let's go ahead and pop in here. Okay, so this is kind of the mock-up. Let's see if we can see the one without the mock-up. Here's the one without the mock-up. And so it's a little bit low resolution. I'm kind of tried to grab the highest resolution one. But let me go ahead and get my pen ready, get my red pen, so I can go ahead and mark that up. Make sure that's big enough. Make that a little bit smaller. Let's make that a hard round brush at 4 pixels. Perfect. Okay, so this overall has a really nice kind of setup. The photo is front and center, has this nice center anchor point, one nice focal point. And that'll come up a lot, as having that one nice focal point as opposed to drawing your eye all over the place and being a mess. So this has a really nice clean structure. This is a nice block of typography here. It becomes flush on the sides. So it's really nice. And this kind of block also differentiates a different piece of typography. So it helps clean it up a little bit. Not everything is shoved into the same block. You have something over here, something over here. It helps your eye rest a little bit. And oh, more people. Hi, Kelly. And so a few little kind of tweaks or things you can do is kind of work on spacing a little bit. So you see how your T right here is really, really close to the edge. I'd make sure you have a little bit of buffer, and you can extend this out a little bit so that you don't have that kind of fighting there. You have the end of the M at the end of that block, and it looks a little different. One thing I do like is this differentiation in type. So you have kind of a medium weight, and then you have a bold weight. And doesn't that look nice? It kind of has this nice differentiation going on. And I love the duotone effect. That looks really nice. So well done for that particular layout. And here's another one, and let's see if we can see it better on the mock-up. I think the mock-up, you can see this a little bit better. So you kind of have this really nice, once again, one clear focal point here. And I think one thing, I like kind of this diagonal presentation. Let's see if I can switch to this one. That might be easier to kind of look at. Once again, maybe just some tweaking of some type placement and size might help a little bit here. Maybe increasing just very slightly, since this is red and it's on pink, you can't see it. But maybe increasing the thickness of that purple bar right here might help this text down here, the website, breathe a little bit. Also, maybe you can make the this information a little smaller and make maybe April a little bit bigger, just to have some more differentiation and have some typography presentations that are a little different. Some are bold, some are a little bigger, just kind of adding to that type hierarchy overall. And with this dance festival, I can tell it says festival, but I might want to bump it up here so it has this kind of blocked appearance. It kind of reads more as one unit. You don't have this little gap here that could make it kind of hard to connect visually. So far, the first project, excellent. Good job on this one. I'm going to go and close all these down and go ahead and get on the next project. Oh, can anybody hear me? I know Kelly says she's having some hard times hearing me. Can everybody hear me? Shawn, can you hear me? Just making sure. Okay, so Chris, popping on. Okay, so Chris Stanford, let's see if you have any other ones. I think you just had the one. Okay, so let's go and pop in here. Taipei International Cycle Show 2019. So this could probably use a little bit of reworking in terms of the basic blocking. So you kind of have this main focal point, but it gets hidden here with this block. So what I might try to do is maybe reveal more of the wheel, so you can kind of really take in that it's a bicycle wheel. And so maybe have that wheel be way more prominent, come outside of this shadowed box or dark box, and have it take up this entire area so you can have something visually to draw the person in. Because right now I'm seeing a ton of type, but I'm not really being drawn into the piece like I was hoping I would with this pretty cool photo that has a nice zoomed in view. So kind of really work on that photo in terms of making that more of the prominent image, even if you have to crop it differently to kind of make it come out. Because I think this dark box here is really kind of preventing that photo from really becoming the focal point. And kind of with everything I'll say here is having just enough breathing room and margins on the side is really important, so that when the viewer sees the piece, they feel it calm. They don't feel like things are bumping right up to the edge. So adding a little more margin here between your C and your edge will be important. You have really good margin up here. So just kind of matching that margin on the side as well. And being careful about font pairing, because I see several different typefaces here, some which are pretty complex. And so when you combine several complex type choices, they tend to kind of make the piece a little more on the busy side. So just kind of incorporating that. But I do kind of like how you're accentuating the red here. And that's kind of interesting. I do kind of like that differentiation. So just kind of cleaning up the type a little bit, maybe pick 2 different typefaces, maybe you find a cleaner typeface for the 2019, maybe having international be the same typeface as the top. That could really help make it more streamlined and together. But thank you for doing a project. Practice makes perfect. I think you got a really great photo here. I think if you just kind of draw that photo out and kind of clean up the type a little bit, you'll have something to work with here. So thank you, Chris. I know people are at all different levels here. We have people who have been doing this for 10 years, people who have just started doing design. So we have all different levels represented here. I'm not going to be able to get to all of Christopher's. I know he's really ambitious. He was even going to post more, and so I love that ambition. But I don't know if I'll be able to get to all of them. So let me pick out a few that I think are maybe the stronger of his layouts. So I'm just going to cycle through and see which one kind of want to focus on. So let's kind of focus on this orange one here. So this is kind of interesting. I do like, there is one main focal point right here. And so in terms of balance, in terms of, okay, you have a photo, your subject matter right here, you have kind of your type here. That's a great balance. And there's plenty of white space and margin here. There's plenty of breathing room. So in terms of overall balance, this is a great piece. And so in terms of rooms for improvement, There's a couple things maybe with typography. I always have such a hard time getting lowercase letters to work really well with wide spacing between the characters. So see the wide spacing here. I've always never can seem to make that look professional. So maybe tightening a little bit of this and just checking this typeface. It looks like it could be slightly stretched lengthwise, height-wise a little bit. So just double checking that type and maybe closing the gap here. And maybe red and orange that's tough. Red and orange is tough on the eyes. So I'd maybe do that a white or a black instead of the red, because the red and orange are just, they're really too close and they're kind of fighting each other a little bit. Let me just take a moment to kind of look at some of the comments. Just if you want to make comments, say, hey, I like this, I don't like this, or just kind of just throwing some comments out. I love to kind of get some interactive feedback from you guys. Yeah, I kind of agree, Samantha. I know you just mentioned that the Canada center seems a little stretched. So just kind of double checking that, Chris, if you can. But I love this kind of, I don't know if you did the photo manipulation here for this, but that looks great. I like the little splash coming out. Come taste the citrus. Once again, kind of working on your kind of type choices and just kind of maybe closing that gap a little bit so it reads a little better if you're going to keep it as a lowercase format, or you can make it all uppercase. Uppercase lettering seems to do better with wider gaps between them because they're a little bit stronger and can stand more independently. And also be careful with drop shadow. I have a hard time working with drop shadow. I don't mind drop shadow right here. Just maybe lighten it up just a little bit so it's not trying to fight so much with the Simply Orange. But love the coloring. I love the photography there. This one's cool. Which one should I do next? I may not have time to do all of these. This one's cool. So you did kind of some brush work in Photoshop. So that's interesting. What would be really neat to kind of even out the tone of all these colors is to maybe apply a duotone kind of effect to the entire photo to kind of bring all the coloring down to maybe one or two ink colors to kind of clean that up a little bit. But I mean, you have a pretty good type hierarchy. You have kind of a basic main headline. You have a headline here. In terms of how you break up your type, it's great. It's great. Okay, let's see if I can I'm not going to be able to get to that one, but maybe in another day. So this one's really cool. I like the presentation here in the mock-up. So that's kind of how it looks in its finished form. This is cool. In terms of hierarchy and blocking, you really have done a great job with all of these. You have your one focal point made headline right here, which is your largest. The date is perfect. I actually think the lines here in the border do a great job at drawing your eye toward the center of the art piece. I'm usually not a big fan of borders, but I think in this case it works really well. I think this piece needs a little bit more work here on the bottom. There's something about this maybe type choice on the white, which makes it look almost like it hasn't been finished yet. It's still kind of in the rough mock-up mode and it's not polished yet. So kind of working on this kind of type choice a little bit, once again, closing the gap on spacing between lowercase lettering really works. But yeah, I really like this. Is probably one of my favorites. I think this is a neat effect. Kind of added kind of a, oh, what's that effect called? It's right down here. I know how to do it. Halftone. There it is. You did a halftone kind of texture effect here, which looks really cool and retro. So I like kind of how you doctored the photo there, kind of how you edited it and added that cool effect. So awesome, Christopher. I'm going to go ahead and close some of these down and bring out the next person. So Claire. So Claire has two. And if you're live, let me know if your work comes up. I'd love to kind of talk with you live. So here's how it looks kind of on the mock-up. So I love seeing mock-ups, how it kind of looks in the real world. There's another presentation. Okay, so here is the presentation. I really love flat lay photography. So this is called flat lay photography. And it's kind of the top-down look. And it looks like you kind of created this yourself, which is really cool because you had to kind of draw all the shadows and make it look like it's casting realistic shadows. So in terms of the headline, I'd be very careful with maybe the amount of drop shadow you're using. Drop shadow should be very subtle unless it's intentionally dark for a reason. But I would maybe lighten all of your shadows just a little bit more to add a more softer, realistic shadow that's being cast. In terms of the overall balance, I really like you have your clear headline, kind of have a little side item here, and I like how it's in a box. And I really love this. I really kind of love how it's yellow. The yellow and blue work really wonderfully together. And this information is nice. and just make sure it kind of aligns a little bit. You can place it on the grid and kind of see if you can make some more kind of left or right alignments with certain elements to kind of add more consistency, kind of using that grid to your advantage. And I'm just kind of looking back at the comments. And sorry, I'm stuffed up again. I was sick last time I did this, but now I have allergies. Oh, I hate allergies. It's like spring where I live. So anyway, I love kind of how you were able to kind of cut all this out, but once again, kind of lightening that shadow, maybe bringing the shadow. See, right now you have the shadow cast out here. So it looks like it's floating. And so when you ever want to portray a shadow of an object that's lying flat, you want to have a very tight shadow. So you want to draw your shadows closer to the object so they're not going to look like they're floating. So just kind of some realistic shadow work there. But overall, fantastic. And I think, okay, so maybe that was just, okay. So I think I got hers all done. So Danielle, go ahead and open up yours. So this is a very nice, clean presentation. So once again, nice margins. I would maybe make them bigger myself, but I think that's an acceptable even margin on the left and right side. And she's also using her alignment and her grid system very well. So she has kind of a left alignment, but when I go down, look, it's also a line down there as well. Of course, I can't draw a straight line with a mouse, but you can kind of get the idea that this is all aligned nicely. So really nice type choices. You have this nice big fat typeface, and you have this really thin, elegant typeface to pair with it, and it works well together. I think my only concern is when you get it printed, you might want to do a test print. Sometimes a weight this thin may print great, but it may not. It just depends on kind of the method you're using for printing and how big this will be. If this is going to be kind of a large, super large poster or banner, you're probably going to be fine. But if it's going to be a 8.5 by 11 or a very small flyer, I'd be a little bit concerned about the weight of the type. So yeah, I like this a lot. I like kind of this, the rays coming out kind of helps add a background element, but it's not totally overwhelming. I might screen it back, 20% to make it just a little bit more blending in with that lighter kind of blue color, so it's not quite as out there, but I really love how the texture kind of adds something to it. And I don't know if you did this illustration, but that's super cool. If you did that kind of pen tool work, that is excellent. So I really love the Space Needle. That's so cool. Cool. So well, that's a fantastic project. So let's go ahead and go to the next person, Davina. Okay, so interesting. And I think it's refreshing those who try to do posters that have a lot of information, because that's realistic. It's not realistic to have just one or two things on a poster and that's what the client's going to want. Clients love to put information on stuff, way too much information. So I think it's refreshing to see someone who's taking the challenge of putting a lot of information on a flyer and trying to still make it look clean and good. That's the challenge of every designer, is taking clients' ideas and making it clean. Even if they're overwhelming you with way too much to put on there, they're going to do that. So I think this is beautiful. So you have this nice, clean, clear subject matter right here, and the placement's really nice. Wonderful right alignment and blocking of this type right here. So that just looks really clean. It feels like it's got a sense of order to it because you have this nice thick margin. And this is a really cool typeface because you have kind of this really simple body copy type here. So you chose a really interesting, more fun typeface for the top, and it doesn't overwhelm. And I love the orange color with the black and white kind of background. So far, this is a very wonderful example of not only type hierarchy and great blocking, but also of alignment and just being able to have great balance. So there's not anything here. I don't think there's anything I would change. I think it's a fantastic example overall. I mean, there could be a little, opportunity here. I wouldn't add anything, but maybe shifting everything up, maybe increasing the margin here, down here, and just shifting everything up just a tad. So you have a little bit, you can use that real estate right here. But this is a strong example. Definitely take notes. So thank you, Davina. Okay, Emily. Okay, so this is a really cool piece. I really enjoyed looking at this one. So once again, if you talk about probably the clearest focal point of all the projects submitted is right here. So instantly I'm interested in this. And that's the whole goal of a graphic designer, is getting the viewer interested in your event. And this definitely draws my eye right to the center point. And you also divided your type, which is excellent. You have kind of this top main headline, and you have kind of another block of copy here. If you were to combine those into one area, it would overwhelm. So the fact that you split it up into two different sections and you have the focal point in between that is genius. I think that's a wonderful layout option. And so I know I saw a few comments in the group, and I think I could maybe agree with this, is kind of making, maybe playing with this space right here. And you could even have maybe your date right here, and then having Hawaii, because those are really, really important parts of an event, is the date and the location. So drawing your attention more to that. But I really like it how it is now. And also making sure everything is perfectly aligned. Just pop on your grid and just kind of make sure this is aligned with that if you do decide, because I think it's a little bit off, and I'm being super picky. I think it looks fantastic. And so I'd probably add a little bit more margin. That's probably going to be the theme throughout all these projects, is adding a little bit more white space and margin between the edge and kind of this area here. And I know you probably might not need, I'm not the biggest fan of strokes. So what you could do is take that stroke off and see how that would look maybe in a different color, perhaps the gold, not some other way, because I'm just not the biggest fan of strokes because they don't always print the best. That's more just a practical kind of thing. Yeah, I really like this one. I agree, Kelly. So awesome. So thank you, Emily. This is a beautiful, beautiful work. Okay, moving on, Gabby. You're next on The Price is Right. So this is definitely kind of for the youthful audience. It's got a lot of energy. I love kind of the photo work that happens here. I love kind of the details here and how it's kind of cropped out. It's definitely hitting its target audience. You got to think about your target audience. It's not always going to be for everybody, but for this target audience, I think it kind of nails it. You have lots of texture, lots of things going on. I think one main point here is just kind of finding ways to maybe clean it up a little bit and finding ways to streamline your type choices. So right now you have this really cool kind of custom music typeface, and then you have this kind of Western typeface. So those are kind of clashing a little bit to me. So if you wanted to do something really simple for festival, instead of having a very detailed typeface, because you have such a detailed typeface here, you don't want to have two different detailed typefaces next to each other if they're not going to be together. So kind of working on ways to clean kind of that up. And maybe, let's see, you kind of have this interesting kind of diagonal look here. I would just make sure your perspectives match up. So if you have this kind of going down, I would have the same line, because right now it's off just a little bit, so it looks almost a little wonky. So just kind of making sure if you're going to do kind of a perspective, to make sure the perspective matches throughout. And in terms of texture, you might be able to get rid of these little marks here or screen them back a little bit to kind of clean up the background. Since you have a lot of type, you don't want to have people try to compete with the type and the textured background. They're going to have a hard time reading. So maybe just a little, I like the effect, just maybe kind of lightening it up a little bit. Just finding ways to kind of clean up the overall design. But in terms of capturing my attention and hitting your target demographic, I think you did a fantastic job of that. Yeah, Shawn, I agree. You say it looks loud, like it sounds loud, like I can really feel this event. And that's the emotional part that's hard to capture and hard to explain when you teach design, is teaching people how to connect with viewers emotionally. So this is kind of one way definitely that Gabby did that. All right. We don't have that. Well, I guess we do have a lot to go. So hang on for the ride. Oh, yes, this is one of my favorites. It's a wonderful, clean, contemporary piece. And for good reason. It's for a modern art exhibition, and it's supposed to be modern, sleek, clean, contemporary. And she did an excellent job, or they did an excellent job. I can't remember if you're a woman or a man, but they did a wonderful job at presenting this piece as a clean way. And I don't know if this is a custom typeface or if that is something you did. If that's something you did, that's really cool. But even if it's just a regular typeface, it's a great choice for this. And I really kind of like your clean V and A. And look at this, you even kind of did some Photoshop work where they put the kind of texture, kind of making the type play with the background elements as opposed to being separate elements. They're blending together as one, and I'm a big fan of that. So one thing I would just make sure is check, they look a little stretched. This A looks a little scrunched. So just double check that to make sure it wasn't actually scrunched at some point in time. Just looks a little condensed, a little stretched, or the opposite of stretched, looks kind of shrunk. So just kind of double checking the type there. I like the overall composition. I probably wouldn't change a whole lot. Add a little bit more buffer here, maybe move this up to maybe right about here, so that you have a little bit more breathing room, because a lot of times these are turned into ads, and ads require lots of margin, so I'd even increase that a little bit more. Because when you have it in a magazine, you have the spine, and you have an ad in the middle of a magazine, sometimes the little bit of the left and the right sides are cut off, or they're inside the spine, so it's great to have really wide margins on ads. Like I wouldn't put anything in that area. Okay, so overall, fantastic contemporary piece. I really like your kind of Photoshop work here, where you probably use layering mask to accomplish that. So awesome job. Okay, moving on. Okay, so kind of looking at this piece, kind of figuring out kind of how we can kind of work on making it a little bit more consistent. In terms of colors, you have a lot of different colors going on. You have red, you have green, and you have blue. A lot of those are primary colors, and so when you kind of use that, it can be very jarring. But you're definitely grabbing my attention. You definitely got that right. And I kind of like how you did some Photoshop work here, and you kind of made this kind of a different color, because right now this is like a duotone green effect, and you kind of made that kind of full color to have a little bit of contrast, so that's interesting. Once again, adding a little bit more margin makes every piece look more professional, so maybe having your type right here in this area will work a little bit better. And then there's kind of a wide gap here, so I would close that gap a little bit to make this look a little bit more together as one piece, or you can do everywhere, period, and then type in everyone. And so you have this going across as opposed to stacked to the left. So you could do a center alignment here, because right now you have center alignment on the top, then you have a left alignment, then you have a right alignment. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Put my brush bigger. There we go. So you have a left alignment, a right alignment, and then you're back to center. So being consistent with your alignment and committing to a certain alignment throughout your piece will help. So maybe having everything kind of center aligned could help. Maybe if you put that as one line, that'll clean that up a little bit. And kind of doing with colors, it's going to depend kind of like why you pick these colors. Is it part of the event that these colors are chosen? Kind of maybe going back to your color palette and kind of thinking about some different color choices that are maybe a little bit more cohesive, that kind of go together. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. So thank you for doing that project. Okay, so these are really well done. So there are two of them here. So this is kind of a really cool, definitely a grabbing my attention piece. And I don't know if they added that or if that was part of the photo, but that's excellent work. If that's any kind of photo work that you did to add that onto the hand. I really like this ribbon that kind of comes across. It's really neat brush texture. It goes really well with the piece. Wonderful use of color. I love the pink as your highlight color, and you don't overuse it. So you use it right when you need to use it. And I love how this type is broken down. So you have this on a white background and this on a pink background. And that is a wonderful placement. And notice how the wide spacing between this all capital letters looks very nice. So lowercase, it's hard to have the wide spacing, but with uppercase, it looks really clean and professional, especially with a thin weight. A wonderful placement of your logo. It's not too big, it's not too small. This is an excellent example of a layout design. One thing here, just maybe add the same texture maybe to this white. This looks a little strange having this little part come out, but I'm just being picky here. I think overall it looks really good. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'm going to go a little bit faster. So this is probably one of my top 3 favorites. This is a wonderful, excellent job. So you have this main capturing headline right here. You also have this wonderful, interesting piece here and photo. You have these red lips that are popping out, matches her shirt. You don't have a lot of different colors. You have one committing to one color, and then you have the black. Has a nice high contrast. I think you broke your text down in different areas very well. You kind of have this as smaller, so really good type hierarchy. You have the biggest thing and you have smaller elements. You're kind of breaking things up in nice, logical ways. I like the way you did the date kind of going down. You're kind of playing with space here. You don't feel like you have to put everything horizontal. You can play with vertical spacing and put things going up as opposed to just feeling like everything has to go right. I like even just your little bullet points here, little kind of separators there between the type. So this is a fantastic and excellent one. I'm just going to leave this up there for just a minute so you guys can really kind of soak this in. I think this is probably one of the strongest examples that you'll see today. So wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Jesse. Okay, so this is interesting, and this is how the brain works. And it's really cool to study how the brain works when you're a designer. So you can read that right away. It says design patterns, but it's backwards. The design is backwards, yet my brain knows that it says design. So I don't mind playing and putting things in reverse, upside down, as long as you can read it legibly and you can understand what it means. I think it's a really creative way to kind of present your type. And I think because you have a white background and you have kind of a blue, you have enough contrast between your type color choice and the background, I don't think you need a drop shadow. And then that'll clean it up a little bit. So I would remove the drop shadow. You don't need it. You don't even need a stroke either. Just kind of a simple, solid color would look excellent because you have such a clean kind of graphic here, kind of using overlays and blending modes to kind of make it a layered look. So this is really simple, contemporary, and clean. I kind of see the effect you were going for by kind of having this be not straight, kind of making it kind of staggered a little bit, and that's a design choice you made. I would just make sure I would shift call just a little bit more into that black box, just to make sure you don't have too much of the white text going out into the white background. But overall, it's a very simple, clean piece. I think this is well done as well. You guys are talented, man. You guys are doing so much better than I did when I first started. I took years to finally, years of practice to finally start doing some of this stuff. So this one's a little bit of a low resolution, but that's okay. We'll make it work. So I think this is a case of simplification is going to do a lot of wonders for this. So finding ways to simplify, you have a couple different colors going on. I think since your photo is full color, using color type is making it a little bit jarring. So what a suggestion would be to make this a duotone photo or making it a single ink photo. That way you can use pops of color in your typography to simplify it and they don't have to fight each other. Also stroke, you probably won't need a stroke if the photo is going to be a single color. And maybe even transparency reduced a little bit. See, I'm having a really hard time reading some of this stuff. So if you make that photo, strip all the color out of it, make it one color and reduce the transparency a little bit, all the stuff will be able to be read better because your overall layout of the type is fine. So just working on ways to simplify, you may not need that line. You know, there's all these things you can experiment once you get that photo kind of no longer fighting the type. You never want your photo and your typography to fight. So kind of, if once you do that, kind of post it back on the group and we can find ways to kind of simplify, work together to make this, you know, a more readable, simple piece. But I love how you're practicing, you're getting it. The type looks great on its own in terms of how you're presenting it. So this is 13th, 14th, 15th of April. So, you know, just some grammar things. You know, I said I wasn't going to talk about grammar, but just maybe commas and dashes and kind of using that to simplify your typography so you don't have to, you could say the 13th through the 15th and you don't have to put the 14th. That kind of thing can help simplify your type. Okay, Kelly, 2 versions here. Let me take a drink of water. Whew, allergies. Gotta love them. Okay, so let me close that one down. I'm gonna look back and see if I see any comments. Hard to see the text, yeah. Okay, so Kelly. Okay, so 2 different versions, or I think I just have it saved twice. Okay, so easy enough. We have one simple version. I love the illustrative vibe to this. The overall emotional impact and feeling I get from it's really relaxed, cool, you know, comfort. You know, I really love the illustration part. So that's kind of that emotional draw. It's kind of hard to teach in design. You either kind of have it or you don't, and they've done a really good job at emotionally connecting with me and kind of making me feel like, oh, this is a cool vibe. I could definitely go to this folk fest. And it's folk music. It's exactly the kind of vibe you want to be able to extrude. So this is well done, wonderful kind of presentation. I think with here, I think you have a lot of stuff on here, but I think that's realistic. It's realistic to have to put exactly this amount of information on a poster. So what we can do is, instead of eliminating stuff, which that's not an option always, is finding a way we can kind of make this have more spacing between all the different blocks of type. So if we go ahead and zoom in here, I think we could get away with reducing the type size a little bit here. It depends on how big this poster is going to be. If it's going to be a large poster, you can get away with a lot smaller type. You'd be surprised. So maybe you have your headliners here. So I'd add a little bit more spacing between kind of the bottom crest of the wave and the type. Just kind of adding a little bit more margin or breathing room here. And then also adding spacing here would really help, and you're going to have to make things smaller to be able to get it all to have more space. Same thing here, just a little bit more spacing here. And this whole bottom, I think this whole thing is perfect. You know, in terms of your type choices, just change kind of the spacing a little bit to make it breathe. And this bottom section does seem a little bit disconnected with this cool vibe up here. And so I think there's one way you can maybe make the star, maybe bring out a color of maybe the brown or one of the dark kind of aqua color. Kind of so instead of this being kind of mostly black and white, kind of add just a little punch of that blue color that you have that's dominating the rest of the piece. I think that would be very helpful. So yeah, this is a really realistic piece because this is exactly how much text you're going to have. I've done a lot of event posters, and this is exactly the type amount of copy you're going to have to work into a poster. So you can even, this is a lot of space, so I'm just kind of seeing this now. You could probably move this whole thing up a little bit, and that'll give you enough room that you need to add your spacing between all the elements. But this is wonderfully illustrated. Very good job, Kelly. Okay. I'm gonna have to move fast here. We're already at 40 minutes. Okay, so I think this is your latest version. You sent a couple different versions, so hopefully this is the latest version. And you did have kind of type here on your previous version, and then you put it into a bubble, kind of a circle shape, and I think that was a good move. That was a great move. I think that looks a lot better. It's got nice high contrast. So I think here the photo's fine. I think the icons are great. I think that looks great. I think we could probably work with colors a little bit. I think maybe make this white so that kind of pops out a little bit more. I think we can work on the headline a little bit. So that's the most important grabbing part, or the photo. So I wonder if you kind of extend the photo out here a little bit so it's kind of goes all the way across. You don't have that kind of border there. Goes all the way across. That could help. And then Spring Vegan Feast, you can probably even make that a little bit bigger perhaps. So Spring Vegan Feast kind of overlapping the photo. So that might have a little bit of a better presentation. I think overall, I think this is pretty good. I like how you're bringing out the orange here. I think the orange and the white is looking really good here. And I wonder if you can maybe screen back the grass a little bit, just to kind of make sure that the background texture never overwhelms this focal point photo. But overall, I think I like your latest version better than the previous one. So I think you've done little things to improve it. And each time you improve it, it's getting better and better. So that's exactly what we do in design. We always improve over our first iteration, our first design that we send to the client. We work with the client and we get it better and better and better until we finally get something that's perfect. Okay, Maha. Okay, so of these two, I'm just going to focus on one. I really like this one. I like the texture and the subject matter the best. I think this is a really cool subject matter. I think you really did a good job at the textures and the vibe and just the way you worked in the photo into the overall background texture. They feel like one unit. They feel connected. They feel good. And I love how you're not afraid to play with kind of a up-down type presentation. You don't have to feel like it has to be horizontal. Playing with the vertical and the diagonal, type doesn't always have to be left to right. So I like how you kind of played with that. I would just kind of see maybe accentuate this free entry and snacks. Every client I've worked with where it's free entry, they wanted that to be very prominent. So if this was ever client work, I can see them saying, make sure you highlight the free entry. So maybe putting that in a colored box or something to kind of highlight that this is a free event. That's a kind of a big deal. You don't have to pay, you don't have to buy tickets. But I really appreciate this photo work and texture that you use. It is perfect. I really love kind of that use. Okay, so I only have time to review. This is actually very, very strong. I really want to spend a little bit of time on this one. Okay, so this is kind of the mock-up presentation. This looks like a professional, this is a professional job right here. This is it on kind of a mock-up. And that's another kind of example. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here so you can kind of see how it looks. Wonderful, wonderful. This is probably one of my favorites. So where to start? I'm going to start on all the good things because I think it's mostly a very strong piece. So notice these little this little hint, almost hiding things. It's almost making you want to view the piece. It's making you want to look at the little details. It's drawing you in. It says it's photography, fashion. So you can read it, photography, fashion, and it's very easy to read. Probably it's lower resolution how you're reading it right now, but it's just kind of a wonderful play. It's kind of being fun and creative. And just these simple little graphical elements like this plus sign, it kind of draws my eye up there, but it doesn't take me away from the main focal point either. It's just a little side item, something that's playful. And I kind of like this right alignment here and how it aligns with the box. Once again, they're kind of repeating the symbols and keeping it simple. And I think this is wonderful. And look at this left to right play with typography. So not only do you have it here, but you also have it here. So here you have learn fashion photography. And you kind of go down to this area. So it's zigging over to the right and then it's zigging over to the left. So it's really playing with your eye, going left to right. And it's a really creative piece. And you might not be able to get away with this if you were advertising, you know, something professional like dentistry or, you know, something in the medical field. But when you're dealing with the creative arts, doing something creative just like this and playing around and being experimental with your layout, this is the kind of industry where you can get away with this and you could be more experimental. I know a lot of clients who wouldn't approve this and so let's just do something simple and clean. And you know, you're not going to be able to get this kind of design approved with those type of clients. But when you're in the arts, this is exactly what they're looking for. So it's really hitting that target demographic and delivering what your client really wants. So this is probably one of my favorite examples. This is definitely a contender for the best in show. So what I'll do is keep in mind some of your favorites. I'm going to pick my top 3 and I'm going to let you guys choose between that top 3. And we'll go ahead and settle on who was the best in show in terms of everybody who did a project. So I'm going to move a little faster. Okay. So this one, I really love this duotone effect on this one. This is Marcin. I don't know if you're saying your name right, but sorry if I'm not. But I love this duotone presentation of the photo, very clear focal point. I love how the blue and the orange very much complement each other. And I believe you added all this texture in Photoshop with Photoshop brushes. That's wonderful texturing work. I like how you're playing around with the diagonal. You're not afraid to experiment with, you know, not just doing horizontal. I like this type choice because it matches your texture really well. I think overall this is well. I think what I would do is maybe lighten this background color a little bit so the ribbon doesn't feel so heavy because right now the ribbon's feeling very heavy. And so it's kind of lightening up that ribbon a little bit, maybe just tweaking this darker color a little bit or maybe playing around with the lightness of that ribbon color. But overall, you know what I would also kind of do is when we view a piece and we view a photo, we're trying to figure out the right cropping for a photo. One thing we do is we zoom in on the subject matter's face. People really connect with faces. So I could even zoom in on this guy here just a little bit to add a more dramatic pop to your overall piece. Because you kind of have this white space, you have a little room to kind of bring in that emotional impact with the viewer by zooming in on this kind of subject matter, making him look like he's right there in action and you're right there with him going on the water. So that would just kind of be a suggestion for the photography. But yeah, overall, excellent job. I didn't realize we had so many projects. Wow, you guys are very active. I love it. Okay, so this is kind of 2 different versions. So tell me which version you like. So this version, we playing with the vertical here. And with this version, we're kind of doing a clean look. So it kind of depends on what version you think you like better. You just let me know. That'd be kind of neat to find out in the comments. I would make sure this little saxophone comes over top of that bar that goes in the back because the bar is not as important as a saxophone. Saxophone is the focal point of the photo. I would even make it a little bit bigger if you have room. Make it come out here. And then maybe have this kind of go kind of circular. I don't know how that would look, and have jazz festival kind of here, make it more of a arc or a circular curve kind of thing instead of just coming straight out. That might be kind of experimental, kind of interesting. It's kind of a creative piece. You could be a little experimental with that and play with kind of round edges. The type on path tool in Illustrator. And then we have this one, kind of the straight one. And after seeing the other one, I think I prefer the other one a little bit better. But overall, I like the composition and the type choices. And once again, lowercase lettering, having wide spacing between them, it's tough. So maybe tightening the spacing just a tad on that one. Okay, Melanie. I think this is an interesting layout. I kind of like this kind of diamond dropping down and how this is like nicely put in here. This headline looks beautiful. I love kind of the 3 different colors here, and the color choices are nice and smooth. They're not so like different that they feel jarring. They're kind of smooth. They just all complement each other really nicely. I love kind of this overall headline. I think this is an interesting piece. I think another comment was said in the Facebook group is it would look a little bit better if you kind of cut this out. You have this little bit of extra feathering here. Just kind of eliminate that and make it cropped out like this. I don't think you need all that stuff. So kind of erasing that, cleaning that up. Make sure you pop it on the grid and make sure everything is aligned. So if you have something that looks like it's supposed to be aligned, make sure it is. So you have this top part. I think this is out just a little bit, just kind of aligning those straight. But overall, this is a wonderful job. This is great headline, great type hierarchy. I think this is a fantastic example. I'm sure you probably tried with this part eliminated, but I kind of like it, kind of how it is. Kind of interesting, unique. I definitely like this. So really good job with your headline and typography choices. All right, we're almost there. So 2 different versions here. So we have this one. Let me close some of these out. Okay, so we have this one and this one. So let me know which version you like better. So this is obviously different versions. So you kind of have, this is a teaser, and this is going to be details. So this could be the back of the flyer, and this could be the front of the flyer. So I'm thinking that's what it is. So this is the front of the flyer. This is really well done. Good job. The duotone effect, the colors, the blue and the purple, they're going really well together. The type choice is interesting. I think it works. I think you have good type hierarchy here. You have this nice bar that's dividing the type a little bit. You even have a little design element. Let's see this bar down here. Now, that looks nice. And your type choice is really well done. I like how you're working with everything. Everything looks professional and clean, wonderful blocking. The focal point or the subject matter is nice and prominent. And you have your presentation, this is important, right up here, nice center alignment. So I think this is fantastic. I wouldn't change a thing. I think it looks really good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back. So you're kind of bringing in your subject matter back. I like that. Overall, this looks really good. I think if I look at this from a distance, I think one maybe strength that you can add to this is maybe instead of having, these are really short subheadings. So what you could do is you could have like a little icon to help kind of anchor those 3 columns so they look more enticing to read. And you can just do a simple little clean flat icon here. Very clean, very small, maybe not even as big as what I did, just to kind of add a little bit more excitement to these columns. Maybe you could have a little bed here or a little hotel. You can have someone singing here, like maybe just the number 3, just to kind of anchor those 3 columns a little bit. Just as long as it doesn't make it more busy. If it makes it more busy, then don't worry about it. I think this is really well done. The colors are nice. There's a theme here that goes from the front to the back, and you want to have your design theme there. You kind of have the bar going all the way across. You have the bar going all the way across here. So there's consistency in type, color, hierarchy, everything. So I think this is really well done. Oh, and here it is presented on the mock-up. So there it is. I love mock-ups. Makes everything look really cool, doesn't it? Okay, I think we only have 8 projects left. So this is another example. I think this is one where you have interesting subject matter, but you kind of probably find ways to clean up a little bit. I think you have this kind of 3D effect on this type. I don't think you need it. I think you can be fine without any kind of 3D effects and bevels. I think you can probably eliminate all that to clean it up. I think you can maybe do a bolder type weight for yellow, and that would kind of help make your headline be a little bit more bold. I think this is fine, this little block here. And finding ways to make this feel more cohesive, I think you got a lot of different type choices here. So I would maybe stick with 2 different type choices or typography for the whole piece, and kind of eliminate all these extra type choices, because there's 1, 2, 3, I think that's the same, 3, 4, 5, I think I'm counting 6 different type choices. So maybe narrowing that down to 2 or 3 will really help kind of make it all the type feel together. But I think the subject matter is great. I think this, you can really accentuate the kind of the glasses clicking together. I think you can have it here, have the glasses clicking together, maybe eliminate this girl. I don't know if you need her or not. I guess it's kind of a party, so, I kind of see why you kind of put her there, but kind of drawing, maybe just having one focal point, picking one photo out that kind of really captures the event well, I think would look better, because you have a lot of type here. So I'd simplify your subject matter. That'll help your type look less busy as well. Samantha. Oh, this one's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. That's awesome. So I don't know in terms of how much you did with the illustration, if you did the custom illustration or you have an illustration that you purchased or you found, but whether or not you did that or not, you did an excellent job. Look at that. That just flows so wonderfully in the piece. Look at that. Look how the type fits in the little crevices and the little areas. Look at how this type fits right there. That is so, it's like sexy. I love it. And look at this wonderful type choice here for women's. It's feminine, and it's kind of got these curves to it, but they only use it for the headline. And so it's never overused. I really like how this 8 is larger. That looks really nice here. Instead of just having the 8th of March, you have this type differentiation. You have a bigger kind of number and then smaller type. It kind of feels a little bit more designed and polished. I like how this is pink and this is kind of the dark blue. That looks nice together. Instead of being one big block of pink copy or one big block of blue, it's divided a little bit, but it doesn't make it look busy. I think maybe one opportunity is you could probably afford to make the type a little bit smaller in this area, just a little bit, just so you have just a little bit more breathing room here. But I think you can probably make the type a little smaller here to work. But look at that beautiful wide margin. Oh, that's good. So this is excellent. I think you could probably shift this out just a tad, just so that it's not super, super close to the graphic here. Just like little small tweaks and spacing. But overall, I wouldn't change a whole lot. I think it's excellent the way it is. I think I'm really drawn to this piece. I really like it. So Samantha, you're here live. This is wonderful. This is one of my favorites. It's going to be in the top 3 for the choice, the winner, or whatever you want to call it. It's not like a prize you're winning, but best in show. You're definitely a top 3 contender. So I really love this. Okay, Scott. This is another one who's one of my top 3 contenders. He did, this is another graphic design superstar. He's awesome. He's a great teacher. Aaron Draplin. And he did kind of a piece for him. And I think this is another example of a really interesting piece that draws you in with this really awesome cutout photo. And if you know Aaron's style, he has a really kind of simple retro kind of vibe to his art. And I think Scott did a really good job of bringing that out in the background by kind of doing these kind of simple. He loves thick strokes and thick lines in his logo. He's a big logo designer. He does a lot of these thick lines. And so I think he brings out the designer's, the subject matter's design style in the poster, and does a really good job at bringing that out. And I like how this is divided up. So you have May 15th and then 7 p.m. It divides it up. It looks really nice. It's consistent. You kind of have the stroke here and the stroke here. This is a time where I don't mind stroke because it's not filled in. You kind of have this, and it's thick enough. I think it would look really great as a printed poster. I think it would look really good digital as well. I like how these are also divided here to 3 nice, simple, well-aligned pieces. So I think this is great. I even like this orange down here because it's like you have a little orange used up here, and you're just using just a little that pop of color to really bring out something important in the piece, which is where it's going to be located, which is obviously very important for an event poster. So, and I also love how the hat kind of pops up over the type. It's very popular now, makes it look very layered, kind of adds a dynamic pop to it. So once again, that's one of my top 3 favorites. All right, Shawn, and you're here live, so I get to edit this live. So this is a really fun piece. I think you talk about hitting your target demographic. I think you nailed it in terms of being illustrative, creative, funky, fun, and funny. So you kind of have, it took me a while, but I found these little hamburgers in here. They kind of had the munchies. So they're like, oh, I got the munchies. And so you're just kind of having fun and being creative here. And I think that's exactly what the event promoter would want if this was a real client, is to be able to kind of be fun and creative with this. So I think this is, I kind of like this kind of movement here with your type, kind of a curve here. I think that looks really cool, especially with your texturing you have. I think one thing is maybe simplifying the textures a little bit, so you really focus on the illustration and the type. You really want to focus on this. So you want to make your background a little less, I think you can maybe get rid of this little gate kind of items here, and you might be able to focus on the clouds here a little bit more and focus on the leaf, because the leaf is pretty important to this event. That's a pretty important part of this piece. So kind of simplifying the background a little bit, make it a little less busy. I think you could really focus more on this part of the design. So yeah, I really like this a lot. I kind of like this little patchwork kind of here. You use different typography, but in this case, you're doing it in a deliberate way. You're not just using a bunch of type because you want to. You're using it because you're creating kind of this hand created, sketched out kind of vibe, like a, not like a scrapbook, but kind of like, you know, those letters where you cut out type from magazines, you put it on there. So you kind of have that kind of patchwork kind of look to it. So I think it works really well. So very fun and creative piece. I really like this, Shawn. Oh yeah, I don't know. How did you make that gold yourself, or was it already like that? Because I think that's a cool effect. Okay, we have 2 more left, and then we'll do the top 3. I have to get going here soon with my day, but I love kind of these circles. First off, cool subject matter photo. That's neat. I really love kind of how it's like a duotone effect. It's kind of a, I love duotone because it kind of takes away the busyness from a full color photo. Sometimes full color can fight too much with stuff, but when you make it duotone, you can kind of work with it a lot easier. So I like this. I would probably put opening night and come join us a little bit closer together, just kind of make them feel like they're in the bubble in the center a little bit. I like this kind of overlapping, kind of interesting kind of cutout here. I think that's neat. I like the typeface of the 10th. That looks really neat. One thing that does look a little out of place is the typeface for March. Doesn't quite fit with kind of the more contemporary type choices you have throughout. So I'd maybe kind of work on that March typeface, kind of make it look a little bit more consistent. Maybe use this typeface here for the 10th or something, just to kind of, just seems like an extra font that doesn't need to be there. I would also make this thicker down here, the bar, just so it doesn't look like it's so tight, like it's trying to breathe there and it's not having enough room. But overall, I think kind of having the bubble here, the overall elements are well put together here. Subject matter, headline. This is a really nice layout. It's a really good job. Okay, I think they have one more. Oh, they do have one more. I'm not going to have time to get to both of them. Okay, so I'm going to open up this one. So adopt. I think that's a really cute poster. And if they did the illustration here, that is super cool, super cute. I love how it's almost like little text boxes there. Very cool, simple illustration. It's not too busy. I like the pop of the yellow and the orange. I think that looks really good. I think I love the hearts. This is really good. I like the little texture here in the background. I think all this is really good. I would probably add a little bit more margin here. That's probably all I see here in terms of corrections. I think this is an excellent job. I kind of like this, just adding that little curve helps instead of it going straight across as a block. Just that little bit of curve with the type on path tool in Illustrator can really add a lot to your designs. I love how this is an off-white. It's kind of a cream color. And it goes really well with the illustration vibe to it. So instead of just white, I think this looks so much better as a cream than it would a white. So I think this is an awesome job, Tan. We are almost there. Oh, there's 2 versions of this. Almost there. Let's see, popping up. Oh, this is super high res. Okay, so which one do you like better? Is there a difference? Okay, let me close all that down. Is there a difference between that and that? Oh, there's a vertical. Oh yeah, that's so much better. So you have that one and you have that one. Which one do you like? So that's kind of vertical. And in this case, it's straight. What do you think, guys? Vertical or straight? I don't know. I think kind of like the straight, but it feels like this verticalness of it, diagonalness of it, is fighting with the straight down here. So I think this flows with the direction of design a little better. So I think I like this presentation. Overall, this is really clean. I like your little background texture. It's a lot better than having a plain white, and it doesn't overwhelm. I kind of like it. I think the stroke, I would maybe do the stroke the same color as the diagonal line, so you don't have kind of a green and then aqua there. You kind of have them all the same color. I just kind of simplified a little bit. I would move this block of copy so that it's a little bit more in the true center of this block. Probably right there. I think over here it's a little too close to the right side. But I love your cropping of the photo. I love this photo. It looks really good here. So overall, good job, good type. I would make sure this is connected. I don't have time to critique every little thing, but I think if you make sure this little thing is connected to the V, just closing the gaps a little bit will help. That'll look good. But I like your type choices here. Okay, we have two more. Okay, here's another presentation of it. We have one more. Drum roll, please. Oh, this is a great example. This is really well done. So first of all, love it. Second of all, I think this whole block idea is excellent. And this duotone or even tritone that you have in the background, super duper dynamic. I think you're really hitting the target market once again with kind of a music festival kind of vibe. I think this is really well laid out. I think maybe you can close the gap a little bit between this little area, but I love how you have this block here. You kind of have your main headline here, and you kind of have some less important stuff here. And you even have the date. I would probably make the date bigger. I'm not sure where you'd put it or if you keep it there, but I think the date does need to be bigger because that's very, very important when it comes to festivals. Date, date, date. Every client's going to want to have that as big as possible. So you could even have it down here. I'm not sure. I kind of like everything in the box, but maybe bringing that date here, and that might clean up the bottom here, and you can shift that down a little bit. But that's probably one of the coolest photos I've seen during this challenge is this one right here. That's pretty epic photo. I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's so emotional. Like I could just I want to be there. I want to listen to the music. So this little 2020 right here, super duper cool way to put the year in there. You're kind of playing with that empty space of the L and putting the 2020. That's probably one of my favorite parts about this piece. So well done. That's it, guys. So I'm going to pick my favorite top 3, and not just because, hey, I like it, but it's going to be pieces that I think have used good balance, good type hierarchy, good coloring, good type choices, just an overall well-rounded piece. It's not really just like my favorite piece because I like it. It's just they use the most basic design principles to create a strong layout. So based on strong layout principles, go ahead and flip through here. There's a couple I had in mind. All of them are so good. I hate picking somebody because I think they're all so good, and it's hard just to pick some because you want to pick them all. But I'm going to pick that one. Let me go ahead and close a couple of these down. Yeah, there's one. There's another choice. And there's some that I'm so close to picking instead, but it's so hard to choose. Drum roll, please. Okay, that's another one. Okay, so that's another one. Oh, this is going to be hard. Let me close some of these down that I was still editing. Sorry. Live videos, you got to love it. Okay, so I think I got some choices here. Wish I had some elevator music to put on. Boo boo doo doo doo. Almost there. Gotta love Photoshop. Wish there was a better way to manage stuff. But okay, so here's kind of some of my favorites. I think this was, let me go ahead and close this one down. Okay, so I think this is an excellent, I loved kind of the overall arrangement of this piece. I thought this was really well done. And let me go ahead and close some of these down. I thought this was excellent. I think this was probably the most creative piece, the most playful piece. I thought this was really well laid out. I thought this was the most illustrative and emotional and probably the best in terms of working with a lot of text and copy. I think they did the best job of working with a lot of copy and doing a really cool, realistic, illustrative, colorful, dynamic piece. I think Scott did another great job. We could get rid of that red stuff, of kind of doing a really clean example of layout design. And so it's hard. It's hard to choose between these. I thought this was an excellent choice because of the dynamic photo. And I loved kind of how they did this headline. I thought the headline treatment was the best on this one. So, okay, so let's go ahead and vote. Anyone who's live, kind of help me decide. I'm going to pick it in the end, but just kind of help me decide. Vas, you said your favorite was Jan. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like kind of the creative treatment here. So if anybody else has any votes, it is so hard. I don't know how to choose. I might have to wait and choose at another time. This is really hard. All these deserve to win. They all do. And whoever wins, I'm going to post on the Facebook, both my Facebook group pages and Instagram and a couple other channels, kind of promoting your strong layout, kind of that you're the winner, and also putting your website or Instagram handle to kind of get your name out there a little bit among all the students that I have. Yeah, that one stays. Yeah, okay, so that one stays. Let's eliminate one. I hate doing this. They're all so good. I'm going to hate to eliminate that one, but now we're down to 4. What do I do here, guys? Draplin. Yep, that's one of my personal faves. I'm a sucker for clean design. I think this is an excellent job. I mean, just the photo choice and the way they crop the photo is so good. And the fact that they incorporated the designer's style into the piece is probably one of my favorite parts of this. So anyway, well, what I'll do is I will reveal the winner later this afternoon. I'm going to think about this a little bit, really think about who deserves to win this, and kind of look at your comments, make comments even after this video is no longer live. Please vote and kind of let me know what you feel, why you think that person deserves to kind of win the best. So let's go and look at the final ones here real quick. We have Jan's picture, very dynamic. We have this very creative photography version. We have this illustrative, colorful pop of color here, and we have this clean, simple layout design. So let me know of those 4, which one you think should be the top dog, I guess you could say, of the whole challenge. So I've enjoyed having you guys here. If anybody has any questions, I know a couple of you guys are live. Please feel free to ask them. I'm just going to do my little spiel here where I kind of talk about, you can always pop on my website, lindsaymarsh.myportfolio.com. You can have access to any of my classes at a discount. I just launched a new one, which is the UX UI design process in Adobe XD. We learn Adobe XD, but we also follow a mobile app design project. We go through the user experience side, creating a user persona and going through all this process. I think this is the future of graphic design. I think a lot of graphic designs will end up getting into this type of world, UX UI design. So it's something good to think about for the future as you start to think about the next 5 years and what kind of projects you'll end up taking on. So if you go through my website, you will always, when you get the $9.99 discount link on all my classes on Udemy. You can also access my Skillshare classes as well. So here's my Skillshare. Please, please leave a review on my Skillshare and Udemy classes. Reviews help keep me going. They help gain new students so I can have kind of keep doing this for a living. I love to do this. My favorite job ever is teaching. I love teaching. So please leave a review that helps get my classes out there a little bit more on Udemy and Skillshare. Please, please, please. I love it. I love it. So the next design challenge, I'll announce that next week. So kind of pop some ideas in my head of what you want the next design challenge to be. We've done a lot already. So we're kind of running out of stuff, but there's always infographics, there's billboards. There could be, another web design project. There could be something icon pack. If you guys want to design an icon set or something, that's kind of fun. Maybe you guys design a crest, a seal. There's all sorts of things. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing something else. Just kind of reading some last comments. So yay. So thank you guys. I've had a lot of fun. It's been an hour and 15 minutes of fun kind of reviewing this project. I love that you guys all really jumped into this and did a good job. Everybody deserves a trophy. Like seriously, everybody does deserve a trophy for practicing. But hopefully that trophy will be clients for you in the future. You can get some paid work after you continue to do a lot of these design challenges and work on and continually take classes and get better and better. So anyway, I love you guys and take care, and I've enjoyed this time with you.